your imagination, what would it be like if certain circumstances in your life were different than what yours are? I just enjoy working. I think I've been lucky enough to work in a career that I've enjoyed, a job that I've enjoyed.
She lost her job in the blink of an eye, punished for a single act of kindness toward a Hollywood legend. A black waitress fired for simply helping Clint Eastwood pick up a dropped folder. What happened next was nothing short of shocking. Tasha's dismissal wasn't just unfair, it was devastating. Tune in, because what Clint Eastwood said will leave you speechless. The diner that changed everything. Tasha, an African-American woman in her late 20s, had big dreams beyond the diner. But for now, she needed this job. It wasn't just about paying bills, it was about survival and trying to get by in a world that often seemed stacked against her. The regulars adored her. She remembered their orders, asked about their families, and had a knack for making everyone feel at home. But one rainy night, Tasha found a cryptic note under the register. Her life would never be the same. One slow afternoon, everything changed. A man walked in, dressed casually but with an air about him that turned heads. He sat in Tasha's section, and while most people might not have recognized him right away, she did. Clint Eastwood, the Hollywood icon himself, had just walked into her life. Tasha served him like she would any other customer, but she couldn't help but notice the quiet, humble demeanor of a man she had only seen on the big screen. As he finished his meal, Clint left a generous tip and thanked her for her excellent service. But before leaving, he accidentally dropped a folder from his bag. Tasha quickly grabbed it and rushed after him, catching him just as he was about to drive away. Grateful, Clint thanked her again, mentioning something about important documents for a project he was working on. When Tasha returned to the diner, the atmosphere had shifted. Her manager, a stern woman with little patience, pulled her aside. Instead of acknowledging Tasha's act of kindness, she accused her of neglecting her duties and wasting time on unimportant distractions. It wasn't the first time Tasha had felt the sting of unfair treatment at work, but this time it hit harder. By the end of her shift, she was fired. No explanation, no severance, just a cold dismissal that left her stunned. The next day, Tasha woke up feeling defeated. She'd lost her job for doing the right thing, and now she had no idea how she was going to make ends meet. As she sat at her kitchen table, staring at a stack of unpaid bills, her phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. Normally, she'd ignore it, but something told her to answer. On the other end of the line was a voice she instantly recognized. Clint Eastwood. He had tracked her down, wanting to personally thank her for her kindness. He'd heard about what happened at the diner and was appalled. Tasha listened in disbelief as he explained that he wanted to help her. Clint didn't just offer kind words, he offered her a job, not as a waitress, but as an assistant on his next film set. Tasha's life took a turn she never could have imagined. From that moment on, she was no longer serving coffee in a small-town diner. Instead, she was rubbing shoulders with Hollywood stars, learning the ins and outs of film production, and building a future she never thought possible. Clint's mentorship opened doors she hadn't even known existed. The story of Tasha spread like wildfire, capturing the hearts and minds of people far and wide. It became a powerful symbol of how one act of kindness can change not just a single life, but also inspire countless others. Tasha's firing from her job had initially seemed like the end of the road for her. She had felt defeated, lost, and uncertain about what the future held. However, what seemed like a devastating blow turned out to be the beginning of an incredible journey of growth, resilience, and purpose. After her termination, Tasha could have chosen to wallow in despair or succumb to bitterness, but instead she found strength in her struggle. She used the platform that the incident had inadvertently given her to speak out against workplace discrimination. Drawing from her own experience, she became a passionate advocate for fairness and equality, standing up for others who faced similar challenges. Her story resonated deeply with many, and she became a beacon of hope for those who felt voiceless or marginalized in their workplaces. As her advocacy work gained momentum, Tasha's message began to reach wider audiences. She spoke at events, participated in community forums, and even collaborated with organizations committed to promoting workplace diversity and inclusion. Her mission was clear: to ensure that no one else had to endure the kind of unfair treatment she had experienced. Tasha's courage and determination inspired others to reflect on their own actions and to take a stand against injustice wherever they saw it. Tasha's experience also served as a poignant reminder of the importance of integrity. Her life wasn't without its struggles, but she refused to let those challenges define her. Instead, she chose to focus on doing what was right, even when the odds were stacked against her. This unwavering commitment to her values made all the difference. It wasn't just the intervention of a high-profile figure like Clint Eastwood that altered the course of her life. It was Tasha's own steadfast integrity and her willingness to act selflessly that truly shaped her journey. Clint Eastwood's involvement in her story certainly brought attention to her plight, but it was Tasha's actions that became the real catalyst for change. She had risked her job and her livelihood to help someone in need, and that courageous act set off a chain reaction of events that ultimately transformed her life. Tasha's story demonstrated that sometimes losing everything can lead to opportunities you never dreamed of. It showed that even in the darkest moments, there is a chance to find light and purpose. Over time, Tasha's efforts began to bear fruit. Policies in her former workplace were reviewed and amended, ensuring a more equitable environment for future employees. Her advocacy led to broader conversations about workplace ethics, respect, and the importance of standing up for what's right. Through her actions, Tasha proved that one person's courage can ignite a movement and that small acts of kindness can have ripple effects far beyond what anyone might expect. Sometimes life changes when you least expect it. A quiet stand in a room full of glamour. The room fell silent. The tension was palpable, every eye in the restaurant now focused on the scene. Miguel's bus tub slipped from his hands, crashing to the floor with a loud clatter. Thomas, who had been making his way over, froze mid-step, his face pale. He set his glass down slowly, the movement deliberate and commanding. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. With a brief call, he requested the ownership papers and renovation plans to be brought to him immediately. When he ended the call, he looked back at Rachel, who was now visibly shaken. "You see, Rachel," he began, his voice calm but firm, "I bought this restaurant 6 months ago. I've been sitting at this table every Friday since. Not for the luxury, not for the prestige, but because this place stood for something real. 50 years ago, the Grand Oak was a place where everyone was treated with respect, regardless of who they were or what they wore. That's what I wanted to preserve." As he spoke, Jerry, the restaurant's accountant, arrived with a leather portfolio containing the documents he'd requested. Jerry handed them over with a respectful nod, stepping back to let him continue. Rachel's face had turned pale, the weight of her actions sinking in. He gestured toward Miguel. "This young man recognized me not because of social media or status, but because he watched my films with his family. He understands something you don't. Respect isn't about appearances, it's about how we treat people." Turning back to Rachel, he offered her a choice. "You can leave and find another job where appearances are all that matter, or you can stay and learn what real hospitality means. Miguel will start training as a waiter. If you choose to stay, you'll learn from him and the rest of the staff what it means to truly serve others." Rachel's eyes filled with tears as she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "I'd like to stay and learn, sir." He nodded, finishing his whiskey and standing up. "Good choice," he said simply. As he walked out, the room erupted in quiet applause, not for the celebrity in their midst, but for the lesson in humility and respect they'd all just witnessed. In the weeks that followed, the Grand Oak underwent a subtle transformation. Rachel's attitude softened, her eagerness replaced by a genuine desire to connect with guests. She learned to notice the details that mattered, not the designer labels or flashy attitudes, but the small moments of joy and appreciation from every customer. Miguel took his training seriously, moving up from busboy to waiter with ease. His confidence grew not just in his job, but in his ability to make a difference, one guest at a time. The regulars at the Grand Oak noticed the changes too. The older couple who had watched the scene that night became even more frequent visitors, often sharing stories with Miguel about their favorite films. The staff's camaraderie strengthened, their shared respect for the restaurant's core values, creating a bond that extended beyond their shifts. Even the influencers and tech moguls began to appreciate the sincerity of the service, their superficial expectations replaced by a genuine admiration for the warmth of the place. And every Friday, Clint Eastwood could still be found at his corner table, sipping his whiskey and observing the scene. He didn't need grand gestures or loud declarations. His presence alone was a quiet reminder that respect and authenticity would always have a place at the Grand Oak. The restaurant's success wasn't just in its luxury, but in its heart, a legacy of dignity and kindness that Clint had ensured would live on. Picture this: a fancy restaurant, posh vibes everywhere, and a waitress with an attitude so loud it practically echoes off the crystal chandeliers. Now throw Clint Eastwood into the mix. You know, the guy who's all about squinty stares and iconic one-liners. But let's dive deeper, because this isn't just any night. This is the night a clueless server decides to treat Clint like some regular Joe, not realizing he's the man who owns the whole darn place. Let's talk about the food, because let's be real, that's why we're here. Clint teamed up with a chef who knows his stuff, crafting a menu that's all about local, fresh, and ridiculously delicious ingredients. We're talking ribeye steaks that are so tender they practically melt, roasted beet salads that make you forget you're eating vegetables, and desserts that could win awards. The strawberry shortcake, a masterpiece of simplicity and flavor. Every dish tells a story, a nod to the land and the history of the place. But it's not just about the food, it's the people who make the magic happen. Clint's all about fostering a team that's as passionate as he is. He's the kind of guy who'll notice the busboy with a spark in his eye and help him climb the ranks. Case in point, Miguel. This kid started out clearing tables but had big dreams of becoming a chef. Clint saw that fire and made sure Miguel got the training he needed. Fast forward, and Miguel's not just part of the team, he's a rising star in the kitchen. Picture Clint strolling into his own restaurant, casual as ever. He's not one for grand entrances or letting people know he's a big deal. He'd rather sit quietly in a corner observing, soaking it all in. But on this particular night, fate had other plans. Enter the waitress, all attitude and no clue who she's dealing with. She's dismissive, maybe even a little snarky, and completely oblivious that the guy she's brushing off is the owner of the joint. Now, Clint's not the type to throw his weight around. He's got that quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation. So, he lets it slide, taking mental notes as the night goes on. It's not about revenge or proving a point, it's about understanding what's happening under the surface. Why is this server acting like this? Is it just a bad day, or is there a bigger issue at play? The restaurant changes and every dish carries a glimpse of something lasting, where every meal tells a story. When the night's over, Clint doesn't storm out or demand to see the manager. Instead, he takes his observations back to the drawing board. Maybe it's time for a staff meeting, a little refresher on what the Grand Oak stands for. It's a place of warmth, connection, and respect, values that Clint holds close to his heart. And if someone on the team isn't living up to that, well, it's an opportunity to make things right. But here's the thing about Clint, he's not just about fixing problems, he's about creating legacies. The Grand Oak isn't just a restaurant, it's a beacon of what's possible when you combine history, heart, and a little Hollywood flair. It's a place where the past meets the present, where every meal tells a story, and where even a less than perfect night can lead to something better. The Grand Oak has this magnetic charm that draws people in, not just for the food, but for the experience. Picture this: families gathering for special occasions, couples enjoying intimate dinners, and friends reconnecting over wine and laughter. It's more than just a restaurant. It's a haven, a space that feels like home no matter who you are. And Clint's fingerprints are all over it, from the ambience to the attention to detail that makes every visit memorable. Let's not forget about the behind-the-scenes magic that keeps the place running like a well-oiled machine. Clint's philosophy is simple: respect the land, honor the community, and never compromise on quality. That's why nearly every ingredient is sourced locally, from the tender steaks to the fresh herbs that garnish the plates. It's not just about supporting local farmers and reducing the carbon footprint, it's about creating a connection between the food on your plate and the land it came from. And then there's the decor. Every inch of the Grand Oak has been thoughtfully designed to blend old-world charm with modern elegance. The original wooden beams have been lovingly restored, antique furnishings add a touch of history, and the lighting creates a warm, inviting glow. It's the kind of place where you can feel the stories in the walls, where every detail whispers of a time when life was simpler, but just as full of meaning. As the years pass, the Grand Oak continues to thrive, its reputation growing as a destination for food lovers and history buffs alike. People come from miles around to experience the magic, drawn by tales of Clint's involvement and the promise of an extraordinary meal. But it's not just about the celebrity factor. At its core, the Grand Oak is about authenticity, about creating moments that matter, and about preserving a legacy that will endure for generations. Even Clint's personal connection to the place remains strong. He's a regular fixture, often seen quietly enjoying a meal in his favorite corner. He's not there to bask in the limelight. He's there to reflect, to observe, and to soak in the atmosphere he's worked so hard to create. For Clint, the Grand Oak is more than just a business venture. It's a labor of love, a tangible expression of his values and his vision. The Grand Oak stands as a shining example of what's possible when passion, purpose, and a deep respect for tradition come together. It's a place where history is celebrated, where community is nurtured, and where every guest is treated like family. Through his involvement, Clint has not only preserved a piece of Cherry Valley's heritage, but has also created a space where the simple joys of good food and good company can be savored and cherished. And there's even more to it. Beyond the day-to-day operations, the restaurant serves as a model for how businesses can integrate sustainability without sacrificing quality or experience. Clint's commitment to reducing waste and sourcing renewable energy is evident in every aspect of the Grand Oak. Solar panels discreetly tucked away power much of the restaurant, and the kitchen's zero-waste initiative ensures that even the smallest scraps find a meaningful purpose. These steps are not just good business practices, they reflect a philosophy rooted in respecting the environment and preserving it for future generations. The community connection is equally powerful. Clint has made sure that the Grand Oak is not just a restaurant, but a gathering place that gives back. Charity dinners, local fundraisers, and workshops with nearby schools have transformed it into more than a dining destination. It's become a hub of activity, fostering a deeper relationship between the restaurant and the people it serves. Local artists showcase their work in rotating exhibits, and musicians often fill the space with live performances that enhance the already rich atmosphere. It's this layered approach that makes the Grand Oak truly exceptional. From the first sip of wine to the last bite of dessert, every experience is meticulously designed to leave a lasting impression. Guests often comment not just on the food, but on the intangible sense of belonging they feel when they walk through the doors. That's the magic of Clint's vision, creating a place where everyone, from the staff to the patrons, feels a part of something bigger. What truly elevates the Grand Oak is the attention paid to the little moments. A guest once recalled how a waiter noticed they were celebrating a special anniversary and discreetly brought out a complimentary dessert with a handwritten note. It's these personalized touches that have transformed the restaurant from a dining spot into a memory-making destination. It's clear Clint's influence extends far beyond the menu. It's woven into the way people are treated and the memories they take home. For those who dine regularly, the Grand Oak is a second home, but for newcomers, it feels like a hidden gem. Stories of encounters with Clint himself have become part of the allure, shared in whispers or proud declarations to friends. Spotting him quietly observing the restaurant's rhythm, sometimes exchanging a few words with the staff, only adds to the magic. It's a reminder that this legendary figure isn't just an icon of the silver screen, but a man with a genuine love for creating something meaningful. Was Rachel's transformation at the Grand Oak a genuine change of heart, or just a survival tactic in a world obsessed with appearances? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, subscribe for more stories.